Hello, this is an assessment of a Bechstein model EN, 280 centimetres long, that's about 9 foot 2 inches long. We're just assessing to see if there's any work that might improve the piano and appreciate the piano too, because it's a beautiful concert grand piano. It's very rare for Bechstein concert grand pianos to be in the UK. And in fact, I've just done a check and I can't remember ever seeing a concert grand Bechstein piano in the UK. And so if you've seen one in the UK, I'd be interested to know. I'm sure there are some, just I haven't come across them. You can see the concert grand wheels there. They have a brake on them, as you do on concert grands. So a lot of concert grands have this brake that's necessary, so otherwise the piano can be moving around while it's being played. So the brake's taken off when you want to move the piano. Now, the casework is in excellent condition, though there's a bit of removal damage. I don't know if you can pick it up on the video, but down the bottom corner here has just been caught slightly, right along that bottom edge, actually, on the long side of the piano. The piano's got ivory keys, pretty much perfect ivory keys, a little bit of dirt on them. They need buffing, really. That stops them attracting dirt if you buff the keys, otherwise you've got to keep cleaning them all the time, but shiny ones tend not to attract dirt. I think I forgot to say it's made in about 1985, and I haven't seen an EN model at all. As I say, there's very few Bechstein concert grands in the UK, mostly Steinways and Bosendorfers and Groch and Steinwegs, Yamaha of course. You find in the UK a lot of Kawai, but not Bechstein. I don't know why that should be, because it's a fine piano. That's the original seller, I think, and it was bought in Germany, not from that seller, not from the original seller, but bought in Germany and brought over to the UK. So it is a fine instrument. Notice here that they've got this duplex scaling like Steinways have, so that's roughly 2 octaves higher than that note. Not sure how much difference it makes, but that shows you they're trying to obviously make the best quality piano possible. And if we look at the strings here, they're good quality bass strings, and we'll listen to them in a second. The tuning pins are tight, so just done an inspection of everything. The dampers are lifting off well, and both with the key about halfway with the keys, just over halfway, and they're pretty even. So regulation wise, it's very good, clean bill of health. And looking at the soundboard, we'll just have a quick look just to show you and appreciate the piano, really, because it's wonderful when these manufacturers do make their top quality piano. Something to admire, really. Such a lot of work, such a labour of love. Look at the soundboard's beautiful, close grain sound. They say on stringed instruments, generally close grain soundboard is what you're looking for. I'm not sure, not really an expert on soundboards, but that was just some lessons I had on violin making a long time ago. They say that close grain is generally the best, but it'd be good to have some comments on that, because I'd love to learn. But as you can see, it's just everything made to the highest possible standard, really, as top manufacturers do. So if you are in the trade and know what EN stands for, really love to know. So let's have a listen to the sound of the piano. So the most important area is obviously where you play the melodies most. And that does sound very, very sweet. There's a variety in the hammers, which we'll look at later on. And beautiful depth as you get with long pianos. And a long resonant bass tone. It's top quality Renner action, as you'd expect. Looking at the hammers, they've got about the amount of wear you'd expect for the age of the piano, I think. Now, apparently it's been worked on to try to get a better tone on the hammers, and digging in my fingernail in there, it's quite soft down there, which is good. And they're getting a bit too hard at the top, some of them, and apparently they've been doped, especially near the top. Well, it's not unusual, and it's not wrong to dope the top hammers to give them a bit more brightness. But top firms, Steinway, do that kind of thing, and top firms generally do that to the top hammers because it's very difficult to get them bright enough to bring out the sound. But if they're too much doped, and if you go too far down here, then it's very hard to work on them. It's very hard up here, so you can hear the tone of some of the hammers just well, it's varied. Some of them are harder than others. Some of them have a nice deep tone to them, others a bit too brittle. So the only way you could do anything about that is actually to change the hammers, unfortunately. So it's a fine quality Bechstein concert grand piano, and I think it's the ways we can improve it. The hammers, well, we mentioned that some have been doped and are hard. So if we listen to them, we'll see if we can distinguish some differences. So those two are roughly the same, played a bit louder. You can see by the way the amount of play it's had by looking at the sides of the sharps. That's a common way of telling how much a piano has been used, as the fingers have been marking the sharps there. So that's slightly brighter, that one, and that one there too. And this one's a lot brighter. And I've checked the end of the hammer there, and it's probably going to be very difficult to work on it. Of course, you could try and work on them as they are. There's another bright one, so it's a variety. And if you play this one softly, it's a nice gentle sound and a bit of bite to it as you play it louder. This one plays softly, it's got a bite to it already, and doesn't have, and goes too bright when you hit it hard. So there's a bit of variety in the hammers there. So apart from replacing the hammers, then reweighing the keyboard. We always finish off with this on my videos because it's so common that pianos can be fully restored or nearly new and be too heavy. So 65 grams, that should be 55, say 60 may be acceptable, and 65 is getting a bit too heavy, over 10% more than it would normally be. So new pianos are normally set about 52 grams, Kawai's a bit heavy at 55, and then we go round to middle C should be, well, more like 50, not 61, 63, so generally quite heavy. Going right up here, that should be 50 or less really, and as you go up to the top, 48. So it's certainly we could try and reweight, and it doesn't really need lubricating. Normally, if you lubricate the balance rail, that sorts it out, or brings it down by 5 grams or so, and it leads, I think, actual adding weights to the front of the keys is the best way of doing that, and the way it's done in new pianos too. So that's a Bechstein Concert Grand made in about 1985, and wonderful piano. As you'd expect, it's Bechstein's top piano really, but we don't see them in the UK, at least I haven't seen one myself, and if you have seen a modern Bechstein Grand in the UK, I'd be very interested to know. There's a few things that I think would improve the piano. First of all, the hammers don't really bring out all the tone that you would expect them to around this area. And that particularly is very bright if you compare it with... And that gets brighter the louder you play it. And this one is bright straight away. And apparently the top of the hammer's been doped, and that's not an unusual thing to happen, but it would be difficult, having been doped, to actually improve it very much. You'd need a new set of hammers. And it's quite common to change hammers on concert grand pianos. There's a beautiful tenor area. And a beautiful bottom bass, as you'd expect. And a good dynamic range. And the other aspect of the piano that could certainly be improved is the weighting. It's a really bit too heavy to play. If you're practicing for 5 hours a day, then maybe you want a heavy action, but if you're just playing perhaps half an hour a day, it's a little bit too hard work. Thank you very much for listening.